Well, I have a couple of stories to tell. First one is one that Bernice didn't have nerve enough to tell, which is very surprising. This is the first year that she was at the Physics Center. We went out on one of our first hikes, and we were with Murray and Margaret Gell-Mann and their family and a bunch of other physicists. And we went to Blue Lake up off of Independence Pass. A rather rugged hike, but a very nice one. We went down to the lake, had lunch, and then we're going up over a ridge and down to the valley where we would go out. Well, there's a big snowfield there, and this was early in the summer. I like to slide in the snow. So we got to the top there and clambered down over the little cornice, and I glissaded on down. This is the first time Bernice had ever slid in a big snowfield. It was rather steep, and you wonder what's going to happen when you get to the bottom. Well, I knew it was safe. So Bernice started out behind me, but she turned to Murray and she said, "Let me go. I've never done this before. Don't get too close to me." And she started sliding down. Murray started sliding immediately after her. And he was heavier and the path was now smoothed out, so he went faster, and halfway down, he crashed into Bernice. Bernice looked at it, grabbed the handful of snow, turned around, pulled out Murray's sweater, and stuffed the snow down it. And then she thought, "Oh my God, here's our Nobel Prize winner. What have I done? I hardly know him." They have been fast friends ever since. She took him seriously.
You didn't say what I said. You didn't have the nerve either.
Oh, she said, "Oh, you bastard." The other one was just one which I was reminded of hearing about various people talking about hikes. This was one of the early years, and I went out early one morning, quite early, probably 5 o'clock in the morning, with Paul Fishbane, Mike Simmons, and several other people, and we were going to climb Star Peak by an unusual route. We were going to go through the Taylor Peak Basin between the two. And got up out of the woods and were going up a very hard snowfield. It was pretty cold and still very early. It was cold enough that I thought I better have a few bites of chocolate to warm up, and I could hardly bite it. It was so cold. But we were going up to a ridge. We would go over this ridge and then drop down to a basin in the sun and then on up to Star Peak. Well, Paul Fishbane was a good talker, and Paul was just talking away as we were going up there. Everyone was, Paul. Well, we got close to the peak of this ridge, and it was, it had a lot of rocky crags and things on it, and Simmons couldn't take it anymore. And Mike turned to Paul and he said, "Fishbane, if you don't shut up, we're going to lash you to the rocks up here and let the eagles eat your liver." Good Greek mythology. Well, just then, a huge golden eagle came gliding down the ridge. Paul, shut up.
It started one Saturday or Friday or Sunday morning at 5 o'clock when a fairly substantial group of us took off to climb South Maroon. And as typical in those days, we met at the Physics Center and started off. And after hiking half an hour, maybe a little longer, an hour or so, some of the people, for various reasons, decided they didn't want to continue on. And in fact, Randy was part of that group originally. And
Smart man.
Besides being foreseeing the future, I think he had a stomach problem, and he turned around too. And so it left finally three of us, Mike Cohen, Tom Fulton, and I, who managed to get to the top of South Maroon about 1:30. I mean, it was fairly late. And after staying there for a while, we started down. And there was a very couloir, which looked like it went on to infinity all the way down. And I have to say, I was the one that said, why don't we just go down here? It looks, very direct. And they were stupid enough to go along with it. And so we ended up going down, and we got off the mountain, but it was the other side of the mountain from where we started. And I think we realized we had to get over a ridge to our right, but we kept walking. And this was, and it was Friday night, so this was now, Saturday, and it was Saturday evening, and it got rather dark, and we got to the point we were stepping in creeks and bumping into trees, and decided that we better get some rest and wait for some light. And so we lay down and threw our ponchos down and slept until maybe 3 o'clock in the morning, when the moon came up. And we continued walking, and Tom Fulton got around 9 o'clock. He saw a sign that said Geneva Lake, and he got on ahead, and then we didn't really see him again, as Mike and I didn't see him again. But he in fact had managed to go up to Geneva Lake and then circle around back to the town of whatever it is, not Marble, Crystal, where there was a phone line, and he managed to tell people back in Aspen that we were still survived. And but Mike and I just plodded on ahead, and we got sometime in the afternoon, or we were coming down this boulder field, and there was a lake in front of us, and Mike said, "That's Crater Lake," which was very, right in the beginning of the day of our hike before. And the fact that there was a pier sticking out of the lake didn't seem to faze him. But more than that, when you approach Crater Lake from what would be the corresponding direction, you would see North Maroon to the left. But he said the reason we didn't see North Maroon is because that was to the north, and the South Maroon was blocking it. And he pulled out his compass, and indeed it was to the north. And I remember him saying, as a quote, "That proves that this is Crater Lake." And so we continued on. It was obvious that before too long that we didn't know where we were. And about 3 o'clock or so in the afternoon, we were on a trail, and there was a sign that said Redstone Campground, Crystal Creek, 13 miles. But it was downhill, and we had no other way to go anyways. So we kept going, and surprising, neither of us were hungry. We still had some sandwiches left over from the day before, and we had a rope with us, and whoever was carrying the rope was dragging behind. And in any case, at 9 or 9:30 at night, we arrived at the campground and got a ride into Redstone and found a telephone booth. This was now 70 miles, road miles from Aspen. And Mike said, "Well, I'm going to call Georgina," it was his wife at the time. "She's going to be very worried." And so he went into the phone booth and shut the door, so I didn't hear what he was saying. And when he came out, he didn't look quite so confident. I said, "Well, what's happening?" And he said, "She's at a party and she's too busy to come."
I never heard that.
But anyway, Peter Kaus and various other people came over and rescued us. But I think, and I'll bet that that's the longest, day hike or 2-day hike in the Physics Center history.
Wow.
Not
It's certainly the most famous.
from the most famous.
It's actually the first time I heard it from the horse's mouth.
I'm so glad you told us.
Well, the other side of the story is that we started out, as Dick said, about 5 in the morning and got up above Crater Lake and up on the side of South Maroon. And we're going up pretty well, but it got rather steep. And Babs Fulton, who was along, got a little bit scared. And she didn't want to go on, but I wasn't about to let her go down by herself because it was rather steep. So I came down with her, and fine, we went back into town. And then about 10 o'clock that night, I got this frantic call from Babs. They aren't back. What's going on? I said, relax. They're probably just slow coming down. They'll come back. Well, midnight, 1 o'clock, kept getting telephone calls. We called the sheriff. Sheriff had mountain rescue alerted. They were all ready to come out and get you. They said, wait till morning, call us again at 6 in the morning. If they aren't back, we'll start action. It got to be 6. We didn't call quite then. But just as we're about to call sheriff and mountain rescue and get them out looking for you, carrying you off the mountain, whatever, Tom Fulton called in. Said, we're down. I followed the Boy Scout rule, got to this creek by Geneva Lake. You're Boy Scout, you're lost, go downstream. You'll get someplace. So he'd gone downstream and gotten out to Crystal in just a few minutes, and then got a ride from there to Marble and called in from Marble. So he said, the others are just a few minutes behind me. So nothing happened all day.
That's not the whole story.
Get up here.
Okay, wait. No, don't
Yes.
stay there.
Come on. I'm glad we changed tape. For the longest,
It's the longest story.
Because the next morning, Regina Cohen called me and she said, we have to go up to Maroon Lake because they're missing. So I go up with her and she says, the mountain rescue people are out. So she has field glasses. And we stand at Maroon Lake and we look up at South or North Maroon, and there are 3 big boulders that are just visible. And she says, there they are. 1, 2, 3. And I said, Regina, don't jump to conclusions. But she said, well, you just wait. And that was her story. She scared everybody half to death, and that was in the morning, and you didn't show up till late that night.
So what was happening in the meantime that you knew of?
Well, what we knew was that Fulton was down, and the others were a few minutes behind. But he had gotten a ride out from Crystal. So it's a 5-mile walk or something out to Marble, so not much traffic. Figure, well, maybe they're just lagging behind and walking out. But nothing happened, and I guess there must have been a physics party that night or something.
I thought at one point Mike Cohen said he saw the parking lot at Maroon Lake. He was hallucinating and he was seeing all kinds of things.
Well, we were definitely hallucinating. We'd look at a tree the bark on a tree and see a sign that said motel.
Well, I thought you said something. You saw the sign. You were on Avalanche Creek. You realized it was an avalanche
Yes.
campground 10 miles or something.
Yeah, that's right. But we also did worse things, like I just said about this motel sign. We actually, I did. I can't remember whether you did too, but I think we both were really seeing things that are definitely not there.
But everyone got out.
But it's interesting, as incredible faux pas as it was, because of it, Mike and I are closer than we would have been, without it.
And you're famous in the physics
And-
community.
But other people have refused to hike with him because they know he'll get lost.